All right, welcome back to Slip Joint Display. Today we are looking at a couple of Grady's and Cutlery 78s from 2024. This is knife number 782124 and 781124. Let's get into the models. So Grady's and Cutlery has re-released the 78s. They have been out for a little bit now. I picked up what I could pick up from the run. I picked up 3. At this point, I only have 2, but let's get into it. So this is a Grady's and Cutlery 78 in Cocobolo. This is a 2-blade knife, a 2-blade jackknife, clip point blades, nice cut swedge, long pull. I think that's a bar shield. I think that's what they call that. So these came out, and I was waiting for these for a long time. I mean, since the last run of 78s. And I was really expecting the 78s to come back out as American Jacks, and these did not. I'll be honest, I like these knives, but I don't like them as much as I like the 78s, or the American Jacks. This one was the first one that I picked up in Cocobolo, and I really wanted to love this knife. I did. When I got it, I had issues with it, big issues. The pivot was so bad, so junked up, that it was barely even a slip joint. I mean, it really just followed around, and I flushed this joint repeatedly. Over 3 days, I flushed this joint 15 times, and you're talking several hours per flush. It's to the point now where, I mean, that's a real lazy open to half. The snap closed, the snap to the closing is better. The pen blade, I mean, when I got it, it just followed around. It didn't even snap into place. I don't know what was going on that day at the factory. I like this Cocobolo. I like the plainness of it. Something that I realized after getting this, after sharpening it and carrying it a little bit, was that there was no etch on the blade. It's just sterile. And I even talked about that on Instagram in a post, that I liked how sterile the blade was. It took me a little bit before I realized that this was kind of a one-off. Most of these Northfields in Cocobolo had a Northfield etch on the blade. Another fella posted in one of the groups on the fact that his blade was missing an etch, and I went and looked at mine, and there was no etch. And then I went and I looked up a bunch of other pictures of this knife, and I realized that this was kind of something different. I think I would have not sharpened and carried it had I realized early. I was determined to make this into what I wanted it to be. I like the Cocobolo on it. The build quality is good. The shield's not there. Pins, some sunk, some not. I don't mind the 2-blade configuration. I don't mind the pen. Almost flush at half stop, but not quite. Nope. It is interesting. I'm not sure of it, but I think that the first run of 78s had clip point blades. I was not around getting traditionals when that run came along, and you really never see them come up on the secondary. I mean, it's rare to even see one posted. This run had a lot of different configurations with it, a lot of different handle materials. There was whiskeys that came out where it was wood used from whiskey barrels, and those were, highly sought after, very low numbers. They looked really nice. I think there was 3 variations of the whiskeys. One of the other ones that I got with this run was one in Rich Light, which was really nice. It was my first look at Rich Light, and they really do a good job with it. I mean, if you're into micarta and you like that, a material that's not natural, Rich Light's really interesting. The way that it sits on the knife and everything. I mean, it almost looks worn. It almost looks like it's got mileage on it. Not to mention the fact that the Richlight model that I had was, as far as build quality and the walk and talk on it, it was perfect. It was just amazing out of the box. You know, this one, I flushed it and flushed it and flushed it and got all kinds of black gunk out of it and everything else for days. That Richlight, I knew I was going to sell it. I liked it, but I knew it wasn't going to hang around. But I did run some oil through it, and it came out clear, like on the first try. Whereas this one, I mean, I think I still get debris out of it if I run oil through it. I don't know why. It's just lazy. I still like it, and I've thought about moving it. You know, it has been sharpened and carried, even though it doesn't have the etch. I mean, all that's nice. I don't know. I do still like it. Again, that's your Northfield trim. This other one is a single blade, and the model is a Rozee. So Great Eastern Cutlery put these out. Let's see if we can see this. Yeah, you can see the etch on there a little bit, right? And then as far as your shield goes, bar shield says Rozee on it. Now, here's your tube. It's Titty trim. Now, these have a story behind them. Unique knife presented by a very special rendezvous greeter, Rozee, yada, yada, yada. Pause and read. Have fun with that. Can you find her mistake? I can't find her mistake. Here's your pin that goes with it. 781124, right? The Rozee. Unless the mistake is that the etch is not centered on the blade. Of course, I mean, if you're looking at it, they would have to do that to not cut her head off by the nail nick. So maybe that's it. I don't know. The Rozee model is interesting. You know, I saw a number of guys getting the two blades and sending them off to have blade deletes done. I understand that. I'm not sure that that secondary blade, that pen blade, is really necessary for the model. The Rozees were released in two different colors, the black Delrin and an orange Delrin. Now, on that note, this is not jig bone, it is Delrin. So, Delrin is, I mean, to me, it's a plastic, but it's got some history behind it, a lot of history behind it in knives in this country. It was first discovered by a German chemist in the 1920s, Hermann Staudinger, I think was the name. But it wasn't really available on the market until DuPont developed a version of it that was heat stable, and they released that in 1960. Western started using it on knives in 61, and Case started using Delrin in 1967. They made it look like, I think, bone and stag, but it was, you know, stronger and cheaper. And as far as Delrin is concerned, I mean, anybody that's dabbled in traditional knives at all knows the Case knives with the yellow Delrin handles. I don't have any of those, and I'm not planning on buying one, but you do see a lot of that. So, I mean, Delrin has its place in the community. It's been used a lot. To me, I hear Delrin and I think plastic, but better, stronger. As far as the Rozee model is concerned, I got this and I made one hell of a user out of it. And I didn't even carry this in a slip. I just threw it in my pocket, carried it, and beat on it. Used it, threw any task at it that came along. And I appreciate it for that. The action on it is a lot better than its cousin in Cocobolo. Pretty good construction here. I mean, I guess you can feel this shield a little bit, but then it's jig bone, so you're going to. Transitions feel good. Titty, so no fluted bolsters. Good centering on that. I mean, good construction on these, just not not in the pivot of this guy. I don't know, man. It was just a tragedy when I got it. I mean, the pen didn't, I mean, even that is a really lazy walk, but at least it snaps closed now. Let's get these out of the way. Just so everybody has an idea. So a little over 2.5 cutting. Fair to say 3-inch blade, maybe a touch beneath it, and just under 7 overall. So you've got an idea now. Not flush at half stop, but close. Let's see. Yeah, we got some gaps in there. I don't really see anything with the Rozee. Nothing. So, not that any of that matters. I mean, if we look from the outside, I don't see any gaps there. It looks pretty good. Nice brass liners. I dig it. I dig this this general build. I mean, again, I don't like it as much as I like the American Jacks, but I think it's interesting. I like the clip point blade. Maybe it could have been a little more exaggerated in its build, but it's fine. Yeah. Maybe someday I'll get a whiskey. We'll see. They came out, they were low numbers, and they go for a whole lot on the secondary market, and I just haven't bothered. Especially with my experience with this one. I mean, God forbid I go through all the trouble to get a whiskey and pay all the money for it, and then I have bad action on it. It just doesn't thrill me. But I thought they did a good job with them. If you know what the mistake was with the Rozee, get down in the comments and let me know. I mean, again, unless it's just the placement of that etching, but otherwise, I don't see any mistakes with it. I don't know, I don't want to say underwhelmed with the run, but I waited a long time. I was hoping to love them more than anything, and that's just not the way it played out. Still, a good run and good knives, don't get me wrong. I mean, a good solid pocket knife, if that's what you're looking for. Just didn't compare to the American Jacks. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Get down in the comments. What's your experience? What's your opinion on it? Did you grab one? Are you looking for one? Let us know. I'll see you guys on the next video.